Hi everyone, we have great questions inserted by you guys on the Instagram poll a few days ago. If you are not following me on Instagram, Rafael.paz, make sure you do. So next time that I'm doing the Q&A in a few days, you can leave your questions there, Rafael.paz on Instagram. Okay, let's get straight ahead. TBLOSR asks, full day of eating. I won't tell you that I will record a full day of eating because I just won't get to it. It's not that interesting for me. But I am eating consistently the same stuff, so I'll share my full diet right away. I eat 3 meals a day, big meals, and 1 dessert at night. That's the structure. Breakfast is always sourdough bread, teaspoon of butter, whole eggs, piece of fruit on the side. Lunch would be white rice with red meat, either ground beef or steak, and a few vegetables on the side, usually cucumber, tomato, bell pepper, stuff of that nature. Evening will be same as lunch, but usually I vary the protein source, either fish or chicken or organs. I eat heart, liver, maybe it will be beef again. I make sure I eat red meat once a day, and if I want to change it, it will be dinner or lunch, but I usually get red meat at least one of the main meals. Sometimes both of them, lunch and dinner will be red meat. And the dessert will always be fruit, blueberries, mango, watermelon, usually with yogurt, Greek yogurt, and sometimes cottage cheese. I get plenty of protein. I aim for about 200 grams of protein. That's maybe even more. That's well above 2 grams for 1 kilogram of body weight. And that's basically the foods I eat, single ingredient foods. I make everything at home, rarely buy, to have more control of the food, what gets inside my body. And I enjoy actually making food. I make food with my wife, with my daughter Sophia at home, and that's awesome. John C. Heck asks, how should a skinny newbie approach their diet and nutrition to gain mass? Too many videos on fat loss. I am excited for this question. I can't agree more with you. There are too many videos on fat loss. And we need to make more videos about muscle and strength gain, where it's all about. Fat loss, that's short-term adaptation. You can tell anyone who is, have a bit of excess fat to get lean enough in about 8 to 12 weeks. Short-term adaptation. You can't build significant amount of muscle mass or strength in 8 to 12 weeks. That's more like 8 to 12 years. So invest more in long-term adaptations instead of just being constantly worried about going from 8% body fat to 15, from 8 to 15, and having the same amount of strength and muscle mass year in, year out. How should a skinny newbie approach their diet and training to gain mass? Believe it or not, I was a skinny, fat newbie. It was just 14 years ago. I used to be a skateboarder. 18 years old, I weighed 58 kilograms. That's 125 pounds. Extremely light. And, I had to force feed myself at the beginning. And I think that a lot of so-called skinny fat, they don't understand that there is an amount that is consistently will pack on size for them. And also they don't usually eat that much. They don't have such big appetite, so they think they're extremely full all the time and they're eating a lot, when objectively, if you compare it to what I eat today, I can eat a lot more. It's just I didn't have the big appetite that I have now. At the time, and you can take that as a recommendation, it's what I did. Sometime, if you truly don't know how much you need to eat, tracking your food is valuable. Measuring your food, putting it in a app like MyFitnessPal or Chronometer, to see what's the number that you should consistently hit to be able to gain muscle mass and size consistently at about 1 to 2 pounds per month. That's the rate that you want, so you can maximize muscle and strength gain, minimize fat gain. You don't want to gain too slow because it's almost unpredictable on the scale. You can't measure it if the weight increase is so small, negligible. It needs to be meaningful enough, but not to the extent where you're adding too much fat. I was eating at the time upwards of 4,200 calories a day to grow, 4,500 calories a day to grow. Bear in mind, I was 20, metabolism was higher, I was sleeping more, probably very active. Don't know if that would be necessary today. Most adults don't need 4,500 in order to build muscle and strength. But if you're young, and if you're that skinny, fat type of guy, really hard to gain on muscle, you might need to force feed, and tracking calories for a short period of time might be valuable for you. Then you come to the conclusion of, okay, this is about the same, the type of amount of food that I need to eat and the source of food that I need to eat. And you already get to have a certain schedule, preferred food choices. You know how large a plate should look like roughly, so you don't have to track on an app and measure your food. No, you're already accustomed, you're habituated to the quantities, and just be consistent. 1 to 2 pounds per month, and that's great. In terms of training, when you are eating more, it's extremely important to use the energy to train like a madman, okay? Don't half-ass your way to bulking and muscle building. You have excess energy, utilize it, maximize muscle growth. It's huge for recovery, and no reason not to. That's the time to pack on size, when you're really indulging in calories and you want to have a big spurt of growth. A lot of people nowadays are so anti-bulking. I see a lot of value in the period I had where I bulked. I'm not necessarily sure whether I would have had the same amount of size that I have now if I hadn't go through a proper bulk a decade ago, a proper bulk. I took a picture once a month, exactly the same mirror, same lighting, same time in the day. I have it month to month, and I made sure I gained the right pace, tracking my food, all of that stuff. Training, just beat your ass off. Train hard, as hard as possible, use the energy, lift heavy, track your lifts, make sure they are going up. With all of the energy, they should go up. Mix barbell, mix bodyweight exercises, and enjoy. Gravity TV.1. How often did you train planche to unlock it? So once I transitioned to calisthenics in 2016, I was already pretty strong. I was barbell overhead pressing, 3 sets of 5, my body weight. At the time, my body weight was 77 kilograms. Okay? I was already doing that. That level of strength will take a lot of people to acquire. I can't tell you that I unlocked the planche in about half a year to a year, because it will be insincere. I already had a lot of strength. Now I coach students to have a lot of shoulder strength prior to specializing in the planche, and that takes a lot of time too. So it's not just about the specific planche practice. Once I had the shoulder strength, it took me about half a year to do the straddle planche for a few seconds, and it took me about a year and a half to do the full planche for a few proper seconds. And that's it. If you're ready, if you're prepared, if your shoulders are strong, which is the limiting factor, that's the weak link in the chain for the planche for most people, then planche specialization will be smooth, it will be linear, it will be predictable, and it will be more enjoyable. It won't take you as long. Emmanuel Placencio. What carries over more to each other, front lever to one arm pull-up or vice versa? Like a lot of the skill training in calisthenics and gymnastics, getting your pushing or pulling up via any skill improves general strength up to a certain point where front lever and one arm chin up has little to do with each other, really. I would say that one arm pull-up is a better general strength exercise to get better at front lever, other rowing exercises, other pulling exercises, because it's a compound movement. It involves more joints, okay? It still hits the back hard, but also includes a lot of the elbow flexors. And that just means that it covers more surface area, more overall muscle mass, making it a better general strength exercise. Front lever will train your back a lot, but once you transition to one-arm pull-up, you might realize that you don't have the elbow integrity, the tendon stiffness to be able to pull one arm, or the elbow flexor strength to do so. Okay, next question. Rushi-SP. Is it possible to program for 30-40 minutes workout 6 days a week and still progress to skills and strength? Absolutely. The way that you split your workout isn't a huge factor. It's basically mix and matching all of the exercises that are great and you should be doing depending on your level of strength, background, and your goals. So if you train 60 minutes 3 days a week, or 6 times a week, half that duration per workout, it's about the same because you can fit the same amount of work. For instance, if instead of doing full body 3 days a week, you can do upper lower 6 days a week. You got to do the same exact work, sets, exercises, reps, just spread over 6 days, which is usually at this point just a matter of preference. Iu Su Pirata. Front lever and one arm pull up. That's the question. I don't understand the question. Sorry. Probably asking for a tutorial, maybe in the future. Stephalok. Healthy neck, head, and spine posture affected by training also. You know, not sure what my thoughts are about posture training, head, spine, and healthy neck. Some people go to the extreme and they will tell you that posture training is completely bullshit. But the reality is there are muscles that affect your posture, and I have trained people at any age, and you get to see a certain type of curvature that happens in your spine for certain people that might, at a certain stage, mobility with strength training the upper back would have helped. External rotators, extensor and rotation of the T-spine, strengthening of the neck. So, you know, if I believe that strength and mobility can affect your quads, your hamstrings, your pecs, your lats, your arms, why wouldn't it affect muscles that also relate to posture? Having said that, you shouldn't be obsessed about posture. You should just train overall, your overall physique. Don't neglect anything too much, and that includes your neck. I did, in fact, incorporate some neck training in my routine in a period of time where I had the most amount of upper back issue, levator scapula, upper back problems. My neck used to get sore and tight frequently. I introduced neck exercises and it alleviated the pain, and I don't have that pain anymore. I did a lot of, I believe it's called retraction, and I did that against either resistance bands, and I did that against weight plates that I put on my against the back of my head. So if you have this type of posture that is exaggerated, perhaps the retraction is what you're missing. So think about what's the problem that you have, what's the limitation that you have, and then how can you strengthen the right muscle group, right, to counteract that. For me, it was this forward head posture that put a lot of strain on my neck, upper back part. Boom, a lot of retraction. That's a problem for a lot of people, actually. You can do neck extension and flexions. Actually, training your neck is valuable. It looks great, I think. Neck, you know, traps, all of that area gives you a thick, proper, strong, powerful look. Especially for combat and contact athletes, it's important. And if you have any posture problem, you know, you should probably consider that. Valentin Raunet, worst to best method for strength. You know, I used to incorporate much more strength training methods in the past. Now I'm much more straightforward. I will explain. Cluster sets, rest pause method, accommodating resistance. I used to program in a way that incorporates a new training method once every 2 or 3 weeks to excite myself, to psychologically ramp myself up towards the sessions so I can train harder. But there's a ceiling to that. Ultimately, you have your progression rate that is realistically to sustain at my level or at any level. And obviously that differs from person to person and the level that you're at and the goals that you're chasing. But there's a realistic ceiling of progression rate that you can maintain. And I was constantly fighting to find the best, the most, the maximum. And that might put you over the line a lot. I had overuse, inflammation problems, and I was unwilling to admit that. And I was training through a lot of pain. There's a realistic progression rate. Most of the session you should attend with the hitting the intensity that you are able to replicate multiple times a week, multiple weeks in a month. Okay? Even on a mediocre, bad training day, you should complete the objectives of the workout, whether that's hitting your handstand push-up, your one-arm chin-up. That should be replicable. It should be attainable on a daily or weekly basis. If you're programming to the extent that you need a fancy training method in order to psych yourself or sort of mask the progress, you don't need to push too hard. Just showing up 4 days a week, 3 days a week, but doing that relentlessly, that's the best training method. Work at an intensity that is very high, but you can replicate. Push yourself very hard. Track your training. I have all sorts of small PRs here. So this is my training program. It's right here, right? I track every session. But also I log, a lot of PRs. So right now my focus is handstand push-up, one-arm chin-ups. I have various types of PRs here. Small PRs, 5 rep max, 8 rep max, 2 rep max. In each and every time I attend the workout, there's a small PR that I break. And that's it. Very small incremental progress, trying to add 1 rep every time, trying to add 1 set every workout, or 1 kilogram every here and there. That's the best training method, okay? And there are ways to program it, but it's just fancy terms, okay? So here are a few fancy terms for you. Double progression method. That's a classic Doug Hepburn approach to programming, which basically if you have 3 sets of 5, you work your way up to the upper part of the rep range, let's say 3 sets of 8. You are playing within these 3 sets to 5 to 8 rep range. Okay? Every workout you add just 1 single rep to the tally. So just 1 rep for 1 of the sets. Workout 1 will be 5, 5, 5. Workout 2 will be 6, 5, 5. Just 1 added rep. And that is a very slow and gradual and incremental progress that you are able to do sustainably for long periods of time, probably years, right? Once you get to 3 sets of 8, you can add weight, you can move on to the next progression. If that's body weight progression, go back to 3 sets of 5, build back up. You can do it with any rep range, 8 to 12, 5 to 8, 3 to 5. You get the gist, right? It's very slow and gradual. That's the idea, just like I said prior. No gimmicks, no psyching yourself up, no need to constantly trying to overreach. Very slow, 1 rep per workout. Another method that I love is EDT. That's escalating density training. That's a training method that was developed, if I'm not mistaken, by the great strength training coach Charles Stanley. He coached weightlifting, he coached strength. You have a designated time frame, 20 minutes. And I was doing that, and I was introduced to this escalating density training method when I was training for the ring muscle up. You have a designated time frame, 20 minutes. Now, you need to accumulate as many total reps of a single exercise, or can you even superset 2 exercises in that 20-minute time span. It doesn't matter how many reps you do per set. You count the total number of work you did in 20 minutes. Or obviously you can change the time frame. That's a great method, not only because you are building more work as means of progression, meaning it's a volumizing method. You are increasing volume as means of making workouts harder. But as you do it in the same time frame, you are actually shortening the rest interval, right? So you are also getting more condition because you are condensing the work. That's fantastic. That's two great training methods that I use to this day. But really, it's the same. If you add 1 rep to the tally, or 1 or 2 reps to the tally, total number of reps in that 20-minute time frame. I did that for about, a lot, for like 6 months straight. Every week I added 1 rep. I finished the 20-minute ring muscle up M rep, or escalating density training, with 66 reps in 20 minutes. It's not elite. That's what I was doing at that time. And it was just a lot of fun, really. Okay, next questions. Let's see what we have. Ravi Street Workout 0. Small muscles training like rotator cuff, etc. and how to stay injury-free. Being injury-free is mostly a matter of load management, basically programming, right? And making sure you recover. It doesn't matter how well-rounded your program is if you are constantly under-recovered. If you're constantly under-recovered or overtraining, same side of the token, different sides of the same token, doesn't matter really. If you're constantly overtraining, there will come a point that overuse injuries will rise. Golfer's elbow, nagging shoulder impingement. It doesn't matter how well-rounded your training program is. And if you have trap free raises, ring face bull, shoulder external rotation exercises, and all of that small rotator cuff muscle group, which I'm totally up for. Okay, you should do them. You should train them. But you need to take care of load management, and you need to take care of recovery first. Once you figure out what's an amount of work that you can do in a week, that you can consistently recover from, and over the course of weeks and months and years, add weight, add reps, stick to it, right? Now, there comes a point where you notice certain weaknesses, right? So, for instance, if you do 1-arm chin-up, and you're doing the set, and once you finish the set, you only feel your arms, you only feel the elbow flexor, right? It means that the back is probably not a limiting factor, that a smaller muscle group in the elbow is a limiting factor, and that might be a smaller muscle than the bicep brachii. It might be the brachioradialis, or the brachialis, or the pronator teres, all of which are pronator elbow flexors. What I'm trying to say is you come to realize what are your weaknesses. And then you can maybe sprinkle 1 or 2 special exercises for your weaknesses. So most of the program will be 90% the same for strength athlete or calisthenic athlete, depending on the sport. And then as you come to understand and realize your body and your strengths and weaknesses, sprinkle 1 or 2 exercises that are targeting the right, addressing the right issues for you. Okay? That's the small muscle groups that you are referring to, or rotator cuff. You can hit the rotator cuff with ring face pulls, with dumbbell seated shoulder external rotation. Common weakness is the upper back, middle and lower traps, doing trap free raises. Okay? Rear delt flies for the posterior deltoid. All of these exercises are great. It will help you if they are a weakness, if those muscles are lagging behind. And it's the case for some. That's definitely the case for some. Perfect. Let's go on to the next question. Okay. Thank you for the patience. By the way, I know I'm slow with it. That's a good time to also mention that if you're looking for one-on-one online coaching, you can check the link at the description, at the bottom, thebodyweighttribe.com. Book a free call with me. Let's see if it's a good fit. One-on-one online coaching to get big, strong, skilled with body weight. Sam does reps. Splits and frequency for muscle growth in calisthenics. So if your main purpose is muscle growth, I'd probably go with a muscle building training split. What's the difference between a muscle building training split and a strength training split, or strength focus? Because obviously strength will build some muscle, muscle building will make you stronger, they mostly overlap. But what's the main difference if I really have to pinpoint? Well, arguably the biggest difference is frequency of training the same movement, okay? Strength athletes, they want to get better at a small few number of movements. Squat, bench, deadlift. For weightlifters, it's snatch and clean and jerk, right? So they want to repeat those movements as frequently as possible so they can get as coordinated and as smooth, technically speaking, with those movements. So they prefer to hit the same movements 3, 4, and even more every week. 3, 4 times per week, 5 times per week, 6 days, the same movements per week. Whereas muscle building program, you don't really care about any particular movement. You care a particular muscle group. So you have a chest day, a shoulder day, a back day, or upper body, lower body. You split your training not according to movements, but according to muscle groups. And you do usually, as a consequence, as a byproduct of that, you do more work per session, per muscle group, but you train the same muscle group less frequently throughout the week. So it's not a coincidence that bro splits are a thing for bodybuilding. That's, the top bodybuilders, they do mostly bro splits, and they don't do upper, lower, or full body. That's the reality. Now you can argue, and I know that the science-based community is saying that that's BS, you need to do full body, 1 to 2 sets per muscle group, but 3-4 days per week, because you have to have that frequency for muscle building. The reality is that most elite bodybuilders, natural or enhanced, they do bro splits. And probably the best case in terms of frequency, they repeat the same muscle group twice a week. Sometimes just for their weaknesses, not for every muscle group, generally speaking. So that's the reality. There's probably something behind it. So they're doing more volume, more exercise, more sets per muscle group every workout, but they might rest 3, 4, 5, or 7 days before they hit the same muscle group. Therefore, you have the bro split, which is basically like a chest day, a back day, a shoulder day, an arm day, and leg day, right? That's an example. But you can do, let's say, you can do upper, lower. That's great too for muscle building, and you repeat that twice a week. You can do push, pull, leg. You can do that twice a week. That's great. So think about how many training days. That's my practical solution for you. How many training days do you want and can allocate every week? If you're telling me you have 6, you have more options. Now you can do push-pull leg twice. Or you can do, a bro split. If you can only train 3 days a week or 4 days a week, you'll probably do an upper, lower, or a full body. Okay? So think about how many training days you want and can allocate to training every week. And then you want to train every muscle group. The sweet spot is usually twice a week. Usually twice a week. Again, some people will go towards the bro split once a week frequency per muscle group. Some people will go higher. The sweet spot for most people is hitting the same muscle group twice a week. So you'll either do a push-pull leg 6 times a week, an upper-lower, or full body if you have less training days per week. Sam does reps, asks training volume in calisthenics for muscle growth. 10 to 20 sets per muscle group. I believe that you are referring to 10 to 20 sets per week per muscle group. And that's not bad, 10 to 20, but honestly, that depends on the level of intensity. So I think 5 to 10 hard sets per week per muscle group is insanely underestimated. 5 to 10 sets per muscle group, but hard sets. Okay? So you do, for instance, 3 sets of dips, weighted dips, very hard on Monday, and you do 3 sets of bench press, or if you're talking about calisthenics, you can do 3 sets of push-ups on rings, very hard, to failure, very close to failure every set on Friday. Okay, so you hit the chest twice a week, 3 sets each. That's only 6 sets total per week, but those are meaningful sets. Okay, usually when you see the recommendation of extremely high volume, 20 sets per muscle group a week upwards, that's just not all sets are done to failure there. If you actually see the programming, if you actually see the videos, you go over footage, most sets are like cruising sets. And then maybe the last set or two are hard, closer to failure. So at the end of the day, I think intensity matters. You should think about effort and intensity first. That's your baseline. Again, I'm always talking and then I'm coming to the conclusion and I speak. Think about effort and intensity first. When you do dips, do them properly, do them hard, target the muscle, okay? Think about the range of motion, think about and feel the muscle group that you're trying to engage. Those are great recommendations. Go close to failure, okay? And now once the intensity and effort are there, see how well you recover. When can you repeat the same muscle group or the same exercise throughout the week, and for how many sets? And as long as you can recover, yeah, do that amount. Maybe you can do more as your work capacity increase and you get more conditioned. Maybe you can increase 3 to 4 sets, 4 to 5 sets per workout. But the effort and the intensity are the baseline. That's more important. Truly, for strength, for muscle group, for muscle growth, muscle building, effort and intensity are the baseline. And then as you get higher work capacity and more conditioned, and you understand that you can recover, you can do more exercises, or you can do more sets for the muscle group. That's the hierarchy, okay? Don't do the reverse. Oh, I need to hit 20 sets per muscle group a week, therefore I'm doing 10 sets of dips, I'm doing that twice a week. No, it's the other way around. Train dips, train them hard, train them intent, see when and where can you recover from, and try to train them again with a lot of intensity and effort. Maybe you'll increase volume over time, but for me that's about, I usually aim for about 10 sets per muscle group a week, okay? Doesn't mean it's the answer for everybody. I hope I covered all of the questions. I probably missed a few, and those are the good questions, the valuable, where I think that I can bring a little bit of value. If you want one-on-one coaching, check the link in the description. By the way, Tribe, let's book a free video call to chat whether we are a good fit together. Like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Thank you for the question. Let's do it again. If you don't follow me on Instagram, rafael.paz, so you can put your question down there, and I'll make a new video soon. See you soon.